Butler there so far?
I love them with Jimmy Butler, but it's not about me loving them with Jimmy Butler. It's about the 76ers that were there before he showed up, loving Jimmy Butler being there. And I'm not saying that there's any type of drama or controversy at all, but when you hear one of the best players in the NBA kind of, well, I got to figure out my role, I got to this, understand that Jimmy Butler is going to be a free agent, right? So you want him to be happy, but you also want the guys around him to be happy. You want this to be, quote unquote, Russell Westbrook, Paul George type of year.
Because you know, like Russell in OKC, it's Joel Embiid's franchise.
Yes, it is Joel. But Jimmy is the guy that's going to take the shots. He's aggressive. Like Jimmy is an alpha. He shows up and he. Even though
it might be Joel Embiid's team, Jimmy is the leader.
He is the leader. He is the leader. He's the guy in the fourth quarter. He's a perimeter defender. But you don't like hearing this. All of a sudden, you're 11-4 with him, and you hear Joel Embiid talking about he's got to figure out his role. Your role is to help your team win games. And if this man helps me win games, Jerry West once said that. He said, winning is the most important thing to me. If that's not the most important thing to you, you're not going to like being around me, right? And that's just the way that Jimmy Butler kind of goes about things. Like, hey, he's unapologetic about how he plays.
And listen, Joel Embiid is one of my favorite players in the league, and one of the best players in the league. He was Cris's preseason MVP pick, and he's played right at, if not just a tick below that level all year long. He needs to chill, though, because the thing is this. Before Jimmy Butler got there, Embiid was averaging 18 shots a game. Since Jimmy Butler got there, he's averaging 18 shots a game. Before he got there, Joel's like, oh, now that he's here, I'm out to stretch 5 more often. Before he got there, he was shooting 4 threes a game. Since he got there, he's shooting 4 threes a game. Like, he is the piece they desperately needed. Because Ben Simmons didn't, we can talk more about this part later, grow his game the way I thought he would this offseason. And so they were in a spot where, all right, the regular season is one thing, but particularly in the playoffs, late possessions, who can we give the ball to and say, create your own shot? They didn't have that on their roster. They were going to have to rely on J.J. Redick for as good as Redick is in his role. That ain't his role.
No.
So if Embiid wants to play in more meaningful games than a Game 5 of an Eastern Conference semis, then this is the guy you needed. So, and now Jimmy, I know he can be prickly, and I know there's a long list of teammates that haven't loved playing with Jimmy Butler. They all got to come together. This is where Brett Brown's got to be important, because without Jimmy Butler, this team had a ceiling. With Jimmy Butler, the ceiling is make the NBA Finals and see what happens. Like, so they've got to figure this out because they needed this player.
Well, and you look at it, you have a full year of recruitment. A full year of recruitment.
Right.
And so when you start, and it's weird, it's like you see success. It's like, wait, you guys are 11-4. You guys were kind of struggling. Part of the reason why you made this move is because it didn't look like you guys were going to be able to compete with Milwaukee, Toronto, and Boston.
No.
Right? It didn't look that way. And so they made a move and got probably the most coveted guy out there from the perimeter standpoint that people knew you could probably go get right now. And so when you look at that and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, there could be a little bit of an issue here.
So if his numbers are similar to where they were last year, what is Joel Embiid complaining about?
Well, he should be complaining about there's lack of court space, because this is the biggest problem. Their player development's really, it's failed Joel Embiid, because Ben Simmons, as I said last year, he's going to come back in 2018. He's not going to be able to shoot. The hardest skill for someone to learn in the NBA, it's not how to defend, the pace of the game. No, it is from I can't shoot to being able to shoot from distance. It has ended more NBA careers than anything else out there. So I didn't think he was going to be able to shoot this year. The jury's still going to be out. I have not seen where a person is not comfortable shooting from 10 feet and then all of a sudden they can shoot from 25. It would be something that I haven't seen. Markelle Fultz, he's not even with the team anymore. So neither one of those top draft picks developing, now the lane is clogged. So playing with Ben Simmons is like playing with another 7-footer, because he cannot expand his game. His defender is going to be in the paint. That's either him posting up or sagging off of him, help defense, because if they give them the ball at 12 feet, he is not a threat to be able to score the basketball. So those are Joel Embiid's. Those are things he should be complaining about compared to having someone, Jimmy Butler, who spaces the court, can defend, can also take big shots that a lot of guys don't want to take.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Even with, to add to your point about Ben Simmons, is that late game, last 2 minutes, you can't even really have the ball in his hands because he can't shoot free throws. So you're talking about really Ben Simmons is one of the best players in the NBA. That's true. So when you look at what your team needs in filling a gap to help your team be successful, I don't think that there was no one that they could have gone and gotten, and you've seen it with their record 11-4. But this is where Joel Embiid, when you talk about 18 shots, 4 threes, that is consistent. Where people don't see it, it's the rhythm in which it comes.
Sure.
I get to take my time. I get to pick this shot. I get to pass these two up because I want to, just kind of ease into the game. When all of a sudden Jimmy Butler shows up and you're like, oh, if I don't shoot this now, I'm not going to get it again. So maybe I'm not shooting the shots that I want at the pace that I want, but that's on you. Your role, Jimmy's going to do Jimmy. Your job is to figure out how to turn this 11-4 into a 15-5 into a 20-6 stretch. That's your job.
And the Phillies' other real job is to figure out why they stink on the road, because they have been a dominant home team, and they just pre and post Jimmy have not been a good road team. But I thought something really interesting happened when you were talking about the limitations in Ben Simmons' game. Richard was doing everything but saying amen. And then right after that, he said, but let's be honest, he's one of the best players in the league.
Yes.
So both these things are true. He is one of the best players in the league. He just has as gaping of a...
Is he best based on potential?
No.
Right now.
He is...
Because the different ways he can put his imprint on the game.
On the game.
Yeah.
He is like, let's say he is a 6'10 Jason Kidd, an early Jason Kidd. He does so many things in so many different ways, but... If you can't shoot, and to your point, you can learn how to shoot. It just takes years. It takes years and years in practice, and you might not see that until year 5 or 6.
And what was disappointing for me is we had Blake Griffin sitting here a month and a half ago, and he talked about how he had to basically remake his shot to learn how to turn those long twos, which he loved, into three-pointers. And he talked about how it was embarrassing, how he didn't want people in the gym with him, because this is an NBA All-Star who's, he's missing the rim, he's missing left, missing right.
And I've seen him at Miracosta High School, which is right in Hermosa Beach, instead of being at the Clippers facility, which is 2 miles away, because he didn't want anybody in the gym.
He didn't want anybody to see him.
I've seen it.
And what was disappointing to me, even if it is going to take years, if it's going to happen for Ben Simmons, is he hasn't added a foot to his range. Yeah. Like, he is just as hesitant this year to take those shots as he was last year. That I didn't anticipate. I'll give you credit. See, you said, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not assigning faith that it's going to happen. I thought he would add a little bit to his game that we haven't seen this year. It's one of the reasons they needed Jimmy Butler so badly.
All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.